Google is expanding its hardware products to include a standalone camera. It's called Clips because it records clips. Get it? Yeah. It's a $250 accessory designed to help you capture memorable moments you might otherwise miss when reaching for a phone. Google is quick to emphasize this isn't meant to be a wearable or always-on camera. It's intended for a pretty specific audience, parents of human babies and fur babies. So let's start with the basics, and the device is pretty basic. Google Clips is a camera that you turn on by twisting the lens. Once it's on, one of 3 white LEDs next to the lens blinks periodically to indicate it's watching. And when it thinks something interesting is happening, it'll capture a 7-second burst of video. There's also a shutter button you can press to take a shot, but the idea is you shouldn't have to use it often. Google's built-in AI is supposed to be smart enough to recognize scenes that are exciting, but more on that later. There's also a reset button on the bottom, as well as the device's USB-C charging port. That's it for Clips' physical characteristics. Super simple. The setup process is relatively fuss-free too. The camera is compatible with both Android and iOS, and the main difference between the two is that you'll have to press a button on your iPhone to initiate file transfer, while that happens automatically with Android. Pairing your phone to Clips is straightforward. Download and launch the app, press the camera's onboard shutter button, and that's it. Once you're done setting up, you can start having fun. Google includes a sturdy clip accessory that doubles as a stand, so you can attach the device to the back of a chair or your diaper bag to get more camera angles. The system will recognize people, dogs, and cats, and when it notices something interesting happening, it will record a 7-second video. To be clear, this is actually a series of still images stitched together. The camera shoots at 15 frames per second and does not record sound. It has no mic. This not only keeps file size relatively small, but also lets you export specific frames as images afterwards. I didn't use that feature much though, I preferred the videos. Actually, I especially liked the app's built-in editor that lets you crop into a specific part of the frame and control when to start and end the video. It was super easy to focus on what I wanted and export just those parts. Google's also made sharing these clips very simple. You can save your selection as a GIF, an MP4, or a live photo, which you can then publish on basically any platform. So Google has nailed all of the basics. But what ultimately sets Clips apart is the AI. And this is where it gets a little tricky. It's not easy to tell exactly what the AI finds interesting or why, but I've noticed some patterns. You can teach Clips who is important by training it on your Google Photos library or taking a photo of that person or pet using the dedicated shutter button. Over time, the system will also learn who's important based on how much you hang with them. When it sees a familiar face, the camera is more likely to snap. But even then, it doesn't capture everything they do. I danced around in front of the camera endlessly, but it didn't snap much. So movement alone, even with an important face in the frame, won't trigger the camera. When the face is smiling though, Clips is more likely to be set off. One of the demos that Google showed us was of a laughing child jumping off of a stool. I tried to replicate that scene by hopping around in front of my Clips, but couldn't get it to record me. I set the camera in front of a group of friends as we played a few rounds of Jackbox. Clips only snapped when either me or my friend Sam, whom it recognizes from my Google Photos history, moved. It failed to capture a moment of intense laughter when my friend Jill and I made an awful joke about Mother Teresa. The same was true when I used Clips on its intended subjects, adorable doggos being adorable. I set the camera on a couch and let it run for an hour. During that time, Hudson, the terrier mix pup, sniffed around the Clips curiously. I immediately thought, yes, we got something good. But I was disappointed to find that it did not capture that moment. In fact, it only snapped about 20 Clips and Hudson wasn't doing much in any of them. Bottom line, even if you have Clips set up and switched on when a special moment happens, there's no guarantee the device caught it. Google says it didn't design Clips to be set it and forget it. It's not a security camera. It's not always on. Its battery will last about 3 hours if it's on the lookout for scenes to record, and will shut itself off if nothing happens for a while. Even if you keep recording for 3 or 4 hours straight like I did a few times, it's almost impossible to fill up the device's 16 gigs of storage. After collecting about 70 clips in a 3.5-hour period, I had only used about 8% of the space. All told, there's a lot to appreciate about the smart camera. I like its premise, its simplicity, its design, and most of its results. I wish the price were a little lower and that the AI was more reliable. But ultimately, this is a product that lives up to most of its promises, even if it is unpredictable. Most of all, I am intrigued by its potential. Sure, this was designed for parents, but think of all the ways the rest of us could use this. Athletes could record themselves performing slam dunks or back-to-back 1080s. Chefs could get close-ups of their chopping prowess. Circus performers could show off their mad juggling skills. Clips is being marketed to a surprisingly limited audience, but with a few tweaks, it could be pretty compelling for the rest of us non-parents.